breaking news. The classified documents case against Donald Trump could have new life after the Justice Department asked a federal appeals court to revive the charges. CNN's Jessica Schneider is joining me now with an update. So, Jess, how is the Justice Department trying to get this case reinstated?
They're appealing this directly to the 11th Circuit, as we expected they would. And they're saying that Judge Cannon, she got this wrong when she dismissed this case against Donald Trump and his co-defendants. You know, they're saying that this case should once again be allowed to move forward. And they're saying specifically that Judge Cannon's decision was novel and that it lacked merit. And what they're really doing is they're pointing to several other court opinions, including a Supreme Court opinion from 1974, U.S. v. Nixon, where the Supreme Court said that the Attorney General has the authority to name a special counsel. You know, of course, Judge Cannon, just a month ago on July 15th, she overturned that. She said that that precedent wasn't binding. She said that the Attorney General was unlawful when he appointed Jack Smith, and also saying that Jack Smith's office was unlawfully funded. Jack Smith is now appealing that decision, and the Justice Department is arguing that not only was Judge Cannon's decision wrong here, but they're also pointing to how this could possibly, if her ruling holds, how this could really affect the Justice Department and other departments. They're putting it this way: if the Attorney General lacks the power to appoint inferior officers, that conclusion would invalidate the appointment of every member of the department who exercises significant authority and occupies a continuing office, other than the few that are specifically identified by statute. They also point to other agencies that could be affected, you know, Department of Defense, State, Treasury, Labor. So what happens now? Well, Trump's team will likely respond to this filing, and then the 11th Circuit will likely set an argument schedule. Who knows if that will be any time in the next few weeks before the election, because of course, if Donald Trump is elected, he could completely quash this entire case. I will note that although the 11th Circuit, it's based in Atlanta, it's known as a conservative court, but they have overruled Judge Cannon before when she appointed a special master way at the beginning of this case. So who knows? Who knows when this will move forward or how they might rule, and it could go to the Supreme Court ultimately.
But they are not paying attention, or at least being dictated to, by the political calendar.
Absolutely not. They're on their own schedule.
Jessica Schneider, thank you very much. Let's bring in our senior legal analyst, Elie Honig. So, Elie, how strong do you think Jack Smith's arguments are? Do you think this case will ultimately be reinstated?
Well, Alex, I just read the brief, and I think Jack Smith's arguments here are rock solid, and here's why. So Donald Trump argued to the district court that special counsel in its entirety is unconstitutional because the argument was Congress has never passed a specific law authorizing special counsel. But the problem, as Jack Smith, I think, ably points out in his brief, is there are a variety of laws that give the Attorney General very broad powers to delegate his powers to oversee prosecution at the Justice Department. And as Jessica points out, there are several prior decisions that have gone essentially Jack Smith's way and against Donald Trump's position. So I think Jack Smith has the upper hand here. We are in uncharted territory, but I think he's likely to prevail.
And as Jessica was just touching on, the question of the timeline, you've got the appeals, this could go to the Supreme Court. What does that timeline look like, and how soon could we see, if it goes to trial, when could we see that happen?
Yeah, it's the all-important when. So we are in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals right now. That's the mid-level court in the federal system. We're not going to get a ruling from the 11th Circuit until at least 2 to 3 months from now, probably more than that. So we probably won't even know as of Election Day whether this case is revived. Whoever loses here is then going to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to take the case. We don't know if they will or not, but that's going to tack on some more time. So we're not going to get a trial anywhere near before the election. And if this case does get revived and we do see a trial, it's likely to be well into 2025.
Elie, I also want to discuss the election interference case in Arizona. Trump is not directly implicated. It's about his supporters. The judge today setting a January 2026 trial date, so about a year and a half from now. Walk us through the significance of that case.
Boy, that's a far-off trial date. So, Alex, this is the case in Arizona, a state-level case where 18 individuals have been charged with essentially the fake elector scheme. They're charged with various conspiracy-type crimes. The biggest headliners here who've been charged are Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows. And the key for prosecutors here is they have to show a knowing scheme to defraud, a knowing scheme to trick somebody. And to that end, prosecutors have now taken guilty pleas from 2 of the defendants, including Jenna Ellis. And if they can give truthful testimony that these other folks knew this was a big fraud, that'll bolster the case. But as you said, with that date, we are a long way off from trial in this one.
And the prosecutors in that case, they urged the Arizona grand jury not to indict the former president. Why did they do that, and what does that mean for this case going forward?
So this is a really unusual circumstance, and the prosecutors actually wrote about it in one of their briefs. Essentially, the grand jury wanted to indict the people who they indicted, plus Donald Trump. That almost never happens. Prosecutors ended up talking them out of it. Prosecutors apparently either didn't believe they had the evidence to indict and convict Donald Trump, or they deferred to the fact that Donald Trump is charged with this fake elector scheme in at least 2 other cases, in Jack Smith's other DOJ case and in the state case in Georgia. So it's a really rare circumstance, but in the end, Alex, Donald Trump gets labeled as co-conspirator 1, but not defendant.
All right, Elie Honig, as always, thanks so much for breaking that all down for us.